All right, so Sarbanes-Oxley requires a written disclosure of the code of ethics for a company. Every company has to have a code of ethics, and it needs to lay out areas, including what the company considers conflicts of interests, how it goes about providing full and fair disclosures of ethical issues, making sure that they're complying with all the legal requirements of everywhere they do business. It also has to lay out their internal process for reporting ethical violations, and also it has to indicate how accountability works with regard to actions taken on behalf of the company. Basically, an inclusion of the org chart there and how accountability works. Therefore, you can't have the excuse, the Enron excuse of, well, I couldn't believe that my employees were doing this. All right. Ethical issues in our profession. Well, we have our code of ethics. We have ethical training that we have to go through. I'm licensed in Texas and Mississippi, so I have to do 4 hours of each of those every 2 years that are Texas specific or Mississippi specific, just purely on ethics. So I have to make sure I get my ethics training and stay up to date with that on an ongoing basis in order to keep my license. So companies need to kind of come up with a similar mechanism to emphasize ethics in the organization. Information, making sure that it becomes a part of the messaging. One of the toughest things is how to set up the reward system so that it does not reward unethical behavior. And that has proven to be a challenge. It can be highly rewarding to falsify that sale in order to make your bonus. And so the reward system, how do you deal with that? In this case, you have to figure something out, and it may be a penalty system. And of course, there are ethical issues just with what we call the digital divide. Who has access to technology? Who has access to computing resources? So just like with many other things in society, housing, etc., education, there are ethical issues that we need to think of from a societal level. As for you and the laptop or computer that your firm or company may issue to you, it's important to understand, or that they allow you to bring in to work, it's important to understand what the policies are there. Depending on who you work for, they may be happy to let you go out and do your Amazon shopping with the company-issued laptop. On the other hand, especially if you work for a defense contractor or in a federal agency, not so much. And a lot of companies won't let you as well. So you want to know what the policy is, or depending on the policy, what times it's okay to do that. If there's a way that you can maintain personal information on the device separate from corporate information. And phones are the same way. So a lot of companies have taken to creating kind of dual partitioned phones rather than issuing two separate phones or having you have your own phone and then a separate company phone. Dual partition phones, so you have a company specific side of the phone and a personal specific side of the phone that you can access. Identity theft is definitely something to consider. People can impersonate you with just a few pieces of information. So you want to protect your personal information. Yeah, digging through the trash is not glamorous, but it still does happen. All right, and of course you'll find people trying to get your information all the time. You've probably gotten an email from something that looked like your bank asking you to send back your login ID and password, or your account number and your PIN, or whatever. Smishing, a term I had never heard before, but apparently it's like phishing just with text messages. So again, you'll get those through text messaging as well. All of these are just making sure that you develop and maintain an awareness of how to use computing resources, and that means you're going to have to become somewhat knowledgeable in those computing resources, your laptop, your phone, your digital watch, or whatever, in order to make sure that you are protecting your data appropriately as a professional. All right, so that's it for this discussion, and we'll come back later and talk about other issues regarding information security and fraud.